Captain Lee Dongwu stared at his coffee cup and sighed. The brown liquid had gone cold again. This was the third time today, and it was barely noon. He looked out the window of the cargo ship Seoul Express and saw nothing but stars, the same stars he had been looking at for the past 6 hours. Tae-ho, he called to the navigation room. Are we there yet? Kim Tae-ho's voice came through the speaker, sounding nervous. Captain, I think we have a small problem. Lee Dongwu took another sip of his cold coffee. In 20 years of flying cargo ships, he had learned that small problems usually meant big headaches. What kind of small problem? Well, remember when I calculated our jump to Mars colony? Yes. I think I put the decimal point in the wrong place. Lee Dongwu closed his eyes. He was supposed to deliver mining equipment to Mars. His daughter's graduation was next week. He had promised to be there. How wrong? Very wrong, Captain. The ship's engineer, Park So-young, walked into the bridge carrying a wrench and looking annoyed. Captain, the coffee machine is making weird noises again. Also, where are we? These stars look different, Lee Dongwu pointed at the speaker. Ask Tae-ho. He put a decimal point in the wrong place. Park So-young raised her eyebrows. How wrong could it be? We jumped 6 hours ago. Kim Tae-ho's voice came through again, even more nervous now. About 50,000 light-years wrong. The bridge went quiet. Park So-young put down her wrench. Lee Dongwu looked at his coffee cup again. 50,000 light-years. Yes, sir. So we're not going to Mars today? No, sir. We're not even in our galaxy anymore. Park So-young picked up her wrench again. Well, that explains why the coffee machine is acting up. These hyperspace jumps always mess with the electronics. She walked toward the door. I'll go fix it. Let me know when we figure out how to get home. Lee Dongwu watched her leave. He admired her ability to focus on important things, like coffee machines. Tae-ho, can you find out where we are? I'm trying, Captain. The star charts don't match anything in our database, but I'm picking up some radio signals. They might be from other ships? Lee Dongwu sat up straighter. You mean we're not alone out here? No, sir. In fact, there are a lot of ships. Really big ships. And they're all heading toward us. Lee Dongwu looked out the window again. He could see small lights moving against the stars. As he watched, the lights got bigger. Much bigger. These weren't cargo ships like his. These were massive vessels, each one larger than a city block. Captain, Tae-ho called. They're trying to talk to us. Put them through. The radio crackled and a deep voice spoke in a language Lee Dongwu had never heard before. It sounded angry and official, like a traffic cop giving someone a ticket. Do we have a translator? Lee Dongwu asked. The computer is working on it, Tae-ho replied. Give it a minute. While they waited, more ships appeared. Lee Dongwu counted at least 20 of them, all surrounding the Seoul Express. Each ship was covered in lights and had strange shapes that didn't look like any human design. Some had long spikes, others looked like giant crystals. All of them looked expensive and dangerous. The translator finally kicked in. The angry voice now spoke in accented English. Unknown vessel, you have violated the sacred borders of the Valorian Empire. Prepare to be boarded for immediate judgment. Lee Dongwu picked up the radio microphone. Hello there. Sorry about that. We're kind of lost. Could you tell us how to get back to the Milky Way? There was a long pause. Then the voice came back, sounding confused. The Milky Way? Yes, it's a spiral galaxy. Medium size. Has a nice yellow star called Sol. We're from the third planet. Another pause. You claim to be from another galaxy? We don't claim anything. We are from another galaxy. My navigator put a decimal point in the wrong place. Could happen to anyone, really. Park So-young's voice came from the engine room. Captain, I fixed the coffee machine. Want me to make a fresh pot? Yes, please, Lee Dongwu replied. Then he spoke into the radio again. Look, we're just a cargo ship. We're carrying mining equipment. Nothing dangerous. We just want to go home. The alien voice sounded even more confused. You traversed the galactic void. By accident? Pretty much, yes. Is that a problem? The barriers, the quantum shields, the dimensional locks, the what now? There was a very long pause. Lee Dongwu could hear the aliens talking to each other in their own language. It sounded like they were arguing. Finally, the voice came back. I am Admiral Kethmore of the Valorian Fleet. In 3,000 years, no one has ever breached our borders. Our defenses are absolute. How did you get through? Lee Dongwu thought about this. We just jumped here. Standard hyperspace drive. Nothing fancy. Impossible. Our scientists say hyperspace travel cannot cross galactic distances. Well, it can if you put the decimal point in the wrong place. Park So-young appeared with a steaming cup of coffee. She handed it to the captain and looked out the window at the alien ships. Wow, those are big. Do you think they have better coffee than us? Lee Dong-woo took a sip of his fresh coffee. It was perfect. I doubt it. He spoke into the radio again. Admiral Kethmore, we don't want any trouble. We just want to go home. Can you help us with directions? You must come with us. The Emperor must see this for himself. The Emperor? Emperor Vexthal, ruler of the Valorian Empire. You have done something impossible. He will want to understand how. Lee Dong-woo checked his watch. If they left now and could find their way home quickly, he might still make it to his daughter's graduation. How long will this take? I have somewhere important to be next week. The Admiral's voice sounded stunned. You have somewhere important to be. My daughter is graduating from university. I promised I'd be there. There was another long pause. You would prioritize a family gathering over an audience with the Emperor of the known galaxy? Well, yes. Wouldn't you? The alien ships began moving, forming an escort formation around the Seoul Express. Admiral Kethmore's voice came through one more time, sounding tired and confused. Follow us to the capital world. Try not to break any more impossible barriers on the way. Lee Dong-woo settled back in his chair with his coffee. Taeho, send a message to Earth. Tell them we're going to be late. Also, tell my wife I might miss the graduation, but I'll try to bring back something nice from another galaxy. What should I tell them about where we are? Lee Dong-woo looked out at the massive alien ships escorting them through space. Tell them we took a wrong turn and ended up in someone else's empire. But don't worry, they seem friendly enough. Park So-young laughed from the engine room. Just another day at the office. Ambassador Yoon Ji-hai was buying vegetables when her phone rang. She looked at the caller ID and saw it was from the United Nations. That was unusual. She answered while picking out carrots. Hello? Ms. Yoon, this is Secretary General Martinez. We need to talk. Right now. I'm at the grocery store. Can this wait an hour? No, it cannot. We need you to be Earth's first ambassador to an alien empire. Yoon Ji-hai stopped looking at carrots. I'm sorry, what? A cargo ship accidentally found aliens. Big aliens. With a big empire. They want to talk to our leaders. You're the closest thing we have to a space diplomat. I teach international relations at university. I've never even been to space. You speak 5 languages and have a PhD in diplomacy. Close enough. Can you be ready to leave in 6 hours? Yoon Ji-hai looked at her shopping cart. She had planned to make soup tonight. Do I have a choice? Not really. The alien emperor wants to meet us. If we say no, they might get angry. We don't know what angry aliens can do. 2 days later, Ambassador Yoon was sitting in the Seoul Express with Captain Lee Dong-woo, drinking coffee and looking at the biggest space station she had ever seen. It was the size of a small moon and covered in lights that changed colors. That's the capital? She asked. That's what they told us, Captain Lee replied. Pretty fancy for a space station. Dr. Choi Min-ho looked up from his tablet where he was reading about alien biology. Actually, it's not a station. It's a planet. They covered the whole planet in metal and lights. Sergeant Bae Soo-jin checked her weapon and shrugged. Still just a big building when you think about it. The radio crackled. Admiral Kethmore's voice came through. Human vessel, you will dock at Port 7. Do not deviate from the planned route. Do not touch anything. Do not speak unless spoken to. Ambassador Yoon picked up the microphone. Admiral, this is Ambassador Yoon Ji-hai representing Earth. We appreciate your hospitality. You are the human leader? I'm a diplomat. I'm here to establish peaceful relations between our peoples. Good. The Emperor is curious about your species. The docking process took 3 hours. The alien port was enormous, designed for ships much larger than the Seoul Express. Their small cargo ship looked like a bicycle parked next to trucks. When they finally disembarked, they were met by a group of aliens that looked like walking trees with too many arms. The aliens were tall, covered in bark-like skin, and had glowing eyes. They wore elaborate robes covered in symbols. The lead alien spoke through a translator device. I am High Chamberlain Rixtel. You will follow me. Do not touch anything. Do not look directly at the sacred symbols. Do not speak to anyone except me. Dr. Choi immediately pulled out his phone and started taking pictures. Fascinating. Your species appears to have evolved from plant-based organisms. What's your photosynthesis cycle like? The High Chamberlain stopped walking. You take images of us? For research. I'm a xenobiologist. You're literally the first aliens I've ever met. This is incredible. Put away your device. Images of Imperial citizens are forbidden. Dr. Choi looked disappointed but put his phone away. Then he pulled out a container of instant ramen. Do you mind if I eat while we walk? I haven't had lunch. The alien stared at him as he opened the container and started eating noodles with chopsticks. You consume food during official proceedings? High Chamberlain Rixtel asked. I get cranky when I'm hungry, Dr. Choi explained between bites. Want some? It's chicken flavor. They walked through corridors that were clearly designed to impress visitors. The ceilings were hundreds of feet high. The walls were covered in gold and jewels. Holographic displays showed images of alien worlds and space battles. Sergeant Bay looked around and nodded approvingly. Nice decorating. Must cost a fortune to heat this place. The Imperial Palace demonstrates the power and glory of the Valorian Empire, High Chamberlain Rixtal said proudly. It's very shiny, Ambassador Yoon agreed politely. How many people live here? 50 million beings serve in the Imperial capital. Wow, the traffic must be terrible. They entered a throne room that was even bigger than the corridors. The ceiling disappeared into darkness above them. At the far end, on a platform raised 50 feet off the ground, sat Emperor Vexthul. The Emperor was the largest alien they had seen yet. He looked like a combination of a dragon and a tree, with scales that shifted colors and eyes that glowed like stars. His voice boomed through the chamber when he spoke. So, these are the impossible beings. Ambassador Yoon stepped forward and bowed slightly. Your Imperial Majesty, I am Ambassador Yoon Ji-hai. On behalf of Earth and humanity, I greet you in peace. You crossed the galactic void by accident. That's correct, Your Majesty. We're sorry for any inconvenience. Inconvenience? The Emperor's scales shifted to a red color. You penetrated defenses that have protected our empire for 3 millennia. Our greatest enemies have tried and failed to breach our borders. Yet you did it by accident. Dr. Choi raised his hand like a student in class. If I may ask, what kind of defenses? I'm curious about the technology involved. Quantum barriers that prevent hyperspace travel. Dimensional locks that redirect any ship away from our space. Energy shields that destroy anything larger than a meteor. Interesting. Our hyperspace drives work differently. We don't use quantum tunneling. We use a folding method that bends space-time. It probably looks like background radiation to your sensors. The Emperor leaned forward. You understand our defensive systems? Not really. I'm a biologist, not an engineer. But it sounds like your defenses were designed to stop one kind of technology, and we use a different kind. Sergeant Bay spoke up. It's like having a lock that stops regular keys, but someone shows up with a key card. Same door, different technology. Emperor Vexthul's scales shifted through several colors. You compare our sacred defenses to door locks? Well, yes. All security works the same way. You try to stop the methods you know about, but there's always someone who finds a new method. Ambassador Yoon stepped in quickly. What Sergeant Bay means is that our technology evolved differently. We're not trying to attack or infiltrate. We're just lost travelers who want to go home. Home. The Emperor's voice became thoughtful. Yes, Admiral Kethmore told me about your family obligation. My colleague's daughter is graduating from university. It's an important family event. More important than an audience with the ruler of a galactic empire? Ambassador Yoon thought about this carefully. Your Majesty, to us, family is the most important thing. We explore space and build civilization so our children can have better lives. What's the point of meeting emperors if we miss the moments that matter to our families? The throne room went quiet. Dr. Choi continued eating his ramen, which made small slurping sounds that echoed in the silence. Finally, Emperor Vexthul spoke. Your species confuses me. You treat cosmic barriers like minor obstacles. You eat food during formal ceremonies. You prioritize family gatherings over imperial audiences, yet you crossed impossible distances and breached impregnable defenses. We didn't mean to breach anything, Ambassador Yoon said. We just want to establish friendly relations and find our way home. Friendly relations. The Emperor's scales shifted to a blue color. What do your people want from the Valorian Empire? Nothing, really. Maybe trade opportunities, cultural exchange, the usual diplomatic things. You don't want to conquer us, or steal our technology, or demand tribute. Ambassador Yoon looked confused. Why would we want to do any of that? We have our own planets and technology. We're just neighbors now, I guess. Neighbors should be friendly. Dr. Choi finished his ramen and raised his hand again. Actually, I would like to study your biology if that's okay. For science, I could share our biological research in exchange. Emperor Vexthul stared at them for a long moment. Then he began to laugh. It was a deep rumbling sound that shook the throne room. Neighbors, he said finally. In 3,000 years of rule, no one has ever called me a neighbor. Well, Ambassador Yoon said with a smile. Now you have some. Han Woo-jin had spent 15 years processing permit applications for Seoul's municipal government. He thought he had seen every kind of bureaucratic mess possible. Then he met the Valorian Empire's Department of Interstellar Commerce. Let me understand this correctly, he said, looking at the stack of forms that reached his chin. To import 1 box of coffee, I need to fill out 47 different forms? The alien bureaucrat, who looked like a giant blue octopus wearing glasses, nodded all 4 of his heads. That is correct, Human Han. Form 1 Alpha establishes your species classification. Form 1 Beta requests permission to exist in Imperial space. Form 1 Gamma— Stop! Han Woo-jin held up his hand. This is insane. In Seoul, we can process a business license in 3 steps using 1 online form. Impossible. The complexity of galactic commerce requires extensive documentation and oversight. Han Woo-jin opened his laptop and showed the alien the Seoul municipal website. Look, business license application. Name, type of business, address, submit, done. The alien stared at the screen with all 4 eyes. But where are the safety protocols? The environmental impact studies? The cultural sensitivity reviews? Built into the system. If you select restaurant, the system automatically generates the health department inspection. If you select construction, it automatically schedules the safety review. The computer does the work. The computer does the work? Yes. Why make people fill out 47 forms when a computer can handle everything automatically? 3 hours later, Han Woo-jin was in a meeting with the director of Imperial Commerce, a creature that looked like a walking crystal with too many arms. Around the conference table sat dozens of alien bureaucrats, all looking confused and slightly panicked. Human Han, the director said, his voice crackling like breaking glass. You claim you can simplify our entire system? I don't claim anything. I can simplify it. This isn't rocket science. It's just basic database management. He pulled up a flowchart on his laptop. Look, here's how your current system works. Citizen wants permit. Citizen fills out Form A. Form A goes to Department 1. Department 1 reviews Form A and generates Forms B, C, and D. Forms B, C, and D go to Departments 2, 3, and 4. Yes, this ensures proper oversight and prevents errors. No. This ensures that nothing gets done. Here's how it should work. Citizen wants permit. Citizen fills out 1 form. Computer checks all requirements automatically. Computer generates permit or requests additional information. Done. An alien that looked like a floating jellyfish raised several tentacles. But what about the review process? The approval chain? The supervisory oversight? Built into the software. The computer can check every rule, every regulation, every requirement instantly. It never gets tired, never makes mistakes, and works 24 hours a day. The room went quiet except for the sound of the crystal director's arms clicking against each other. How long would this take to implement? The director asked. Give me access to your system in 3 weeks. Meanwhile, on the other side of the imperial capital, engineer Oh Kyung-soo was staring at what the aliens called their master power distribution node. It was a machine the size of a building, covered in blinking lights and making ominous humming sounds. This controls power for the entire sector? He asked the alien engineer, a being that looked like a metal spider with glowing eyes. Yes, Human O. It is the pinnacle of Valorian technology. It has operated flawlessly for 800 years. Why is it making that noise? What noise? Oh Kyung-soo pointed at the machine. That grinding sound. And those sparks. And the smell. Those are normal operational parameters. No, they're not. Oh Kyung-soo walked around the machine, examining it carefully. This thing is about to break down. Look, these power couplings are overheating. This cooling system is clogged. And this... He pointed at a section covered in what looked like alien duct tape. What is this? Emergency repairs from 200 years ago. 200 years? And you never fixed it properly? The system is too complex to modify. Any changes could cause catastrophic failure. Oh Kyung-soo shook his head and pulled out his toolkit. Step back. I'm going to fix this before it kills someone. You cannot. The master node requires 17 specialists and a formal modification request approved by the Imperial Engineering Council, or one engineer with common sense and the right tools. 2 hours later, the grinding noise stopped. The sparks disappeared. The smell went away. The machine ran quieter and cooler than it had in centuries. How? The alien engineer asked, his metal body quivering with confusion. Basic maintenance. I cleaned the filters, tightened the loose connections, and replaced the worn-out parts. This is a good machine. You just needed to take care of it. Word of Oh Kyung-soo's repairs spread quickly through the Imperial Engineering Corps. Soon he was being called to fix problems across the capital. Each time he found the same thing: advanced alien technology that had been overcomplicated and under-maintained. On the military side of things, Captain Lim Da-un was in a briefing room with Imperial Fleet Admiral Zortek, a massive creature that looked like an armored dinosaur. The Admiral was explaining the Empire's current strategic problems. For 3 centuries, we have been unable to defeat the Krell Confederation, Admiral Zortek said, pointing at a holographic star map. They control these systems here, here, and here. Every time we attack, they retreat. Every time we retreat, they attack. It is an impossible situation. Captain Lim studied the map for a few minutes. Why don't you cut off their supply lines? Supply lines? Here, she pointed at the map. They're getting supplies through this corridor. Block it here and they can't maintain their forward positions. They'll have to fall back to defensible positions and then you can engage them on your terms. But that would require dividing our forces. Yes, basic strategy. You use smaller forces to control key positions, then concentrate your main force against their weakened positions. Admiral Zortek's armored plates shifted nervously. Our doctrine has always been to maintain fleet unity. Divided forces are weak forces. Divided forces are flexible forces. Look, you have a hammer, and you're trying to use it for everything. Sometimes you need a screwdriver. Sometimes you need pliers. I do not understand these tool metaphors, Captain Lim sighed. You need different tactics for different situations. One big fleet is great for big battles, but you also need small fleets for raids, blockades, and reconnaissance. Use the right tool for the right job. The Admiral stared at the map for a long time. This strategy, it could work, it will work. It's basic military doctrine. We've been using these tactics for thousands of years. Back in the Commerce Department, Han Woo-jin was putting the finishing touches on his new permit system. The alien bureaucrats watched nervously as he demonstrated the software. Citizen clicks here to request a trading permit, he explained. The system checks their species classification, their home planet's trade status, their intended cargo, and their ship's safety rating. All automatically. What about Form 12 Delta? Asked the octopus bureaucrat. The cultural sensitivity assessment? Built in. If they're importing food, the system automatically checks it against the dietary restrictions database. If they're importing art, it checks the cultural taboo database. If everything is okay, the permit is approved instantly. Instantly? Yes, why make people wait 3 months for approval when a computer can do it in 3 seconds? The director's crystal arms clicked rapidly. And if there are problems? The system flags the application and sends it to a person for review. But 90% of applications will be straightforward approvals. The director was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, implement it immediately. Really? Human Han. In 3 weeks you have created a system that could replace 3,000 bureaucrats and reduce processing time from months to seconds. Either you are a genius or we are idiots, Han Woo-jin shrugged. You're not idiots. You just made things more complicated than they needed to be. It happens. 3 days later, the new permit system went online. Applications that used to take months were being approved in minutes. The alien citizens were amazed. The bureaucrats were terrified. The director was so happy he offered Han Woo-jin a permanent job as Supreme Efficiency Coordinator. Thanks, but I have a job back on Earth, Han Woo-jin said. Besides, my wife would kill me if I moved to another galaxy without asking. Your wife has authority over your career decisions? Well, yes. That's how marriage works. The director's crystal body sparkled with confusion. Humans are very strange. Yeah, Han Woo-jin agreed. But we get things done. Across the capital, engineer Oh Kyung-soo had fixed 17 major systems and was training alien engineers in basic maintenance procedures. Captain Lim Da-yun had reorganized the Imperial Fleet's tactical doctrine and was teaching their officers about flexible strategy. None of them thought they were doing anything special. They were just applying basic knowledge and common sense to problems that the aliens had overcomplicated. But to the Valorian Empire, they were revolutionaries who had solved problems that had existed for centuries, and that was just the beginning. Kang Hee-wan stood in front of the Great Temple of Vexandra, one of the most sacred sites in the Valorian Empire. The temple was 3,000 years old, made from crystallized starlight, and supposedly inspired religious devotion in all who saw it. She took a selfie and posted it to Instagram with the caption, "Pretty building. Wi-Fi is terrible here. 3 to 5 stars." Her tour guide, a floating crystal being named Shimtar, was visibly upset. His light patterns were flashing red, which the translation device said meant extreme distress. "Human Kang, this is the holiest site in our empire. Millions of pilgrims travel for years just to see it." "It's nice," Kang Hee-wan said, checking her phone for signal. "The architecture is interesting, very blue. Could use better lighting for photos, though. The blue light represents the eternal wisdom of the cosmic consciousness." "Uh-huh." She took another photo. "Do you know if there's a coffee shop nearby? I need caffeine." Shimtar's light shifted to a confused purple pattern. In 3,000 years of giving tours, no one had ever asked for coffee in the presence of the Great Temple. Behind them, retired teacher No Sang-min was reading an information plaque and frowning. He had been a high school history teacher for 30 years, and he had developed a good eye for historical inaccuracies. "Excuse me," he said to another tour guide, a tree-like being with glowing bark. "This plaque says the temple was built in 2147 imperial years ago. But that plaque over there says it was built in 2151 imperial years ago. Which one is correct?" The guide's bark flickered nervously. "Both are correct, honored human. Time flows differently in sacred spaces." "No, it doesn't. Time flows the same everywhere. Someone made a mistake." No Sang-min pulled out a notebook and started writing. "Also, this says the temple uses crystallized starlight, but that's impossible. Starlight is electromagnetic radiation. You can't crystallize radiation. It is a sacred mystery beyond mortal understanding." "It's not a mystery. It's probably some kind of synthetic crystal with fiber optic cables. Very pretty, but not mystical." The tour guide looked like he was about to cry, if trees could cry. Meanwhile, street food vendor Shin Jae-wook had set up his Korean BBQ cart in the main plaza of the imperial capital. He had gotten the necessary permits. Thanks to Han Woo-jin's new system, it had taken 5 minutes. And he was grilling marinated beef over an open flame. The smell attracted a crowd of curious aliens. Most had never encountered Earth food before. Shin Jae-wook smiled and offered free samples. "Try this," he said to a purple creature with multiple mouths. "It's bulgogi, Korean barbecue." The alien tentatively took a bite. His eyes widened, then he began to make sounds that the translator couldn't interpret. "Good?" Shin Jae-wook asked. The alien nodded frantically and pointed at the meat, then at his mouth, then at the meat again. More nodding. Within an hour, there was a line of aliens stretching around the block, all waiting to try Korean barbecue. Shin Jae-wook had to call his supplier on Earth to arrange emergency kimchi shipments. Back at the Great Temple, travel blogger Kang Hee-wan was interviewing pilgrims for her blog. Most of them had traveled for months or years to visit the sacred site, spending their life savings on the journey. "So what do you think of the temple?" she asked a group of insect-like aliens who had walked across 3 star systems to get there. "It is the most beautiful sight in the universe," one of them replied through a translator. "To stand in its presence is to touch the divine." Kang Hee-wan looked back at the temple. "Have you ever been to Bukchon Hanok village in Seoul?" "No, what is that?" "Traditional Korean architecture. Much more impressive than this, in my opinion. Better preserved, too. And the coffee shops nearby are amazing." The pilgrims looked confused. One of them asked, "But this temple was built by the gods themselves." "No, it was built by people. Probably really skilled people, but still people. Architecture is architecture." Her tour guide, Shimtar, was now flashing patterns that the translator said meant existential crisis. Teacher No Sang-min had found more historical errors and was making corrections in his notebook. He approached the head temple priest, a massive being that looked like a walking mountain with crystals for eyes. "I've been reviewing your historical records," No Sang-min said politely. There are several mathematical errors in your astronomical calculations. Would you like me to help fix them? The priest's crystals dimmed. You question the sacred mathematics? I'm not questioning anything. I'm just pointing out that 2,847 plus 654 equals 3,501, not 3,515. Basic arithmetic. These numbers were revealed by divine vision. Then someone had a vision with a calculator error. It happens. I once calculated my retirement savings wrong by $20,000. Very embarrassing. The priest stared at him for a long moment. You would correct the divine mathematics, if you want me to. I have a calculator app on my phone. Takes 2 seconds. Across the capital, Korean BBQ vendor Shin Jae-wook was being interviewed by Imperial News Network. The reporter, a floating jellyfish with camera eyes, was asking about his sudden popularity. Human Shin, your food establishment has become the most visited location in the capital. Food critics are calling your cuisine transcendent. What is your secret? Shin Jae-wook shrugged while flipping meat on his grill. Good ingredients, proper marinating, correct cooking temperature. Same as any barbecue. But the flavors are unlike anything we have ever experienced. Well, you never had Korean barbecue before. Of course it's different. Food scholar Vexthil has declared your kimchi a revolutionary fermentation achievement that redefines our understanding of vegetable preparation. It's just fermented cabbage with spices. My grandmother's recipe. The reporter's jellyfish body pulsed with excitement. Your grandmother is a renowned culinary scientist? She ran a small restaurant in Busan, made good kimchi. We must interview this culinary master immediately. She passed away 10 years ago. But I can give you the recipe if you want. The reporter nearly fainted. The idea of sharing secret culinary knowledge was unthinkable in Valorian culture. Back at the temple, Kang Hee-won was finishing her tour review on her blog. The Great Temple of Vexandra is a decent tourist attraction. The crystal work is impressive, though the historical claims are questionable. The tour guides are enthusiastic but take everything too seriously. No gift shop, limited food options, and the Wi-Fi is non-existent. If you're in the area, it's worth a quick visit, but I wouldn't make a special trip. 3.55 stars. Would recommend the Korean BBQ place in the main plaza instead. Teacher No Sang-min had spent the afternoon helping the temple priests correct their historical records. He found 47 mathematical errors, 12 dating inconsistencies, and 3 completely impossible claims, like a war that supposedly lasted 400 years but involved people who only lived 200 years. Thank you, human No, the head priest said. For 3 millennia, these errors have confused our scholars. No problem. History is important. If you don't get the facts right, how can you learn from the past? You are very wise. I'm just a retired teacher. This is basic stuff. The priest's crystal eyes glowed brighter. Would you consider staying? We have many historical records that need review. Sorry, I'm only here for 2 weeks. Tourist visa. But I can recommend some good textbooks on historical research methods. By evening, news of the humans' activities had spread across the capital. The Great Temple, one of the most revered sites in the empire, had been casually reviewed like a restaurant. Sacred mathematical errors had been corrected by a retired teacher. The most popular food in the capital was now Korean barbecue made by a street vendor. Emperor Vexthul called an emergency meeting of his advisors. Explain to me, he said, his scale shifting through confused colors, how 3 random humans have accomplished more in 1 day than our scholars have in centuries. The teacher corrected mathematical errors that our priest couldn't solve, reported one advisor. The food vendor has revolutionized our understanding of cuisine, said another, and the blogger has written reviews that are more accurate than our official historical guides, added a third. The emperor was quiet for a long moment. They treat our greatest achievements like everyday things. Yes, Your Majesty. Our most sacred temple received a 3-star review. 3.5 stars. Your Majesty. And they think Korean barbecue is more impressive than crystallized starlight. Apparently so, Your Majesty. Emperor Vexthul's scales shifted to a thoughtful green color. Perhaps, he said slowly, we have been taking ourselves too seriously. Your Majesty, when was the last time anyone actually enjoyed visiting the Great Temple? The advisors looked at each other nervously. None of them could remember. And when was the last time anyone had fun at an imperial cultural site? More nervous glances. But that Korean barbecue place has a line around the block and everyone is happy. Yes, Your Majesty. The Emperor stood up from his throne. I want to try this Korean barbecue. Your Majesty, that would be highly irregular. Emperors do not visit street food vendors. Why not? Because it has never been done. Well, Emperor Vexthol said, walking toward the exit, maybe it's time to try something new. And for the first time in 3,000 years, the Emperor of the Valorian Empire went out for street food. President Park Yoon-ji was in the middle of a parent-teacher conference when her phone rang. She looked at the caller ID and sighed. It was the Imperial Communications Center of the Valorian Empire. Again. Excuse me, she said to her son's math teacher. I need to take this call. It's about work. She stepped into the hallway and answered the phone. Hello, Emperor Vexthol. President Park, we need to discuss the trade agreement revisions. Can it wait an hour? I'm at my son's school, of course. Family first, as you humans say. But when you have time, we need to talk about the Krell situation. Did Captain Lim's strategy work? Perfectly. The war is over, we won. The Krell want to surrender, that's great. I'll call you back after the meeting. President Park hung up and returned to the conference room. The math teacher looked curious. International business call? He asked. Something like that. 6 months had passed since first contact, and humans had somehow become essential to running the Valorian Empire. It hadn't been planned. It just happened, the way water finds the easiest path downhill. ET specialist Lee Jun-seok was now the unofficial chief technology officer for the entire Imperial Communications Network. He had started by fixing their email system, which was apparently 2,000 years old and held together by the alien equivalent of rubber bands and hope. The problem is basic network architecture, he explained to a room full of alien engineers. You have 47 different communication protocols trying to work together. Of course, nothing works properly. He pulled up a diagram on his laptop. Look, here's what you have now. The screen showed a tangled mess of lines connecting different systems. And here's what you should have. The new diagram was clean and simple, with clear connections between components. But the complexity ensures security, protested one of the engineers. A robot-like being with glowing circuits, no. Complexity creates vulnerabilities. Simple systems are secure systems, look. He opened another window showing security logs. You had 47 security breaches last month because your complex system has 47 different ways to fail. And your simple system? 0 breaches, because there's only one way in, and we control it. The alien engineers looked at each other with confusion. But we are the most advanced technological civilization in the galaxy. You're the most complicated technological civilization in the galaxy. There's a difference. Within a week, Lee Jun-seok had redesigned their entire communications infrastructure. The new system was faster, more reliable, and easier to maintain. The aliens were amazed. Lee Jun-seok was just happy that their emails finally worked properly. Meanwhile, small business owner Kim Young-gi had accidentally created the largest retail chain in galactic history. It started when she opened a convenience store on the Imperial capital world. What do you mean you don't have batteries? She asked the local store owner, a crystal being that glowed softly. Batteries? Portable power sources, for devices that need electricity. We use direct energy transfer from the planetary grid. What if you want to take a device somewhere without a grid connection? The alien looked confused. Why would you do that? Kim Young-gi realized that the aliens had never invented portable power. They had mastered faster-than-light travel and energy manipulation, but they had never thought to put power in a small portable container. She opened her convenience store 3 days later. The aliens were fascinated by the concept of buying small, useful things without a formal procurement process. Within a month, she was getting requests to open stores on other planets. I don't understand the appeal, she told her business partner over a video call to Earth. It's just batteries, phone chargers, snacks, and cleaning supplies. Basic stuff, basic to us. Revolutionary to them, I guess. They're offering me exclusive retail rights for 200 star systems. That seems like a lot. Take it. You'll be the richest person in human history. I don't want to be the richest person in history. I just want to run a good store. But the aliens kept asking her to expand, and it seemed rude to say no. By the end of the month, Kim Young-gi's convenience stores were essential infrastructure across dozens of worlds. Back on Earth, President Park Yoon-ji finished her son's parent-teacher conference. He was doing well in math but needed to work on his handwriting, and called Emperor Vexthul back. Sorry about the wait. How can I help you? The Krell Confederation wants to formally surrender to the Valorian Empire. But they have a condition. What condition? They want to surrender to the humans instead. President Park paused while putting groceries away. What do you mean? They say humans are obviously the real power behind the Empire. They want to negotiate with Earth, not with us. That's ridiculous. We're just helping out with some technical problems. President Park, in 6 months, humans have revolutionized our technology, solved our military problems, fixed our bureaucracy, and become our most popular cultural attraction. The Krell think you secretly conquered us. We didn't conquer anyone. We're just neighbors helping neighbors, and I know that. You know that. But the rest of the galaxy thinks Earth is a secret superpower that controls the Valorian Empire through advanced manipulation techniques. President Park sighed. Do you want us to explain that we're not secretly controlling anything? Actually, no. It's been very helpful for our diplomatic relations. Other empires are much more polite now that they think we have mysterious human allies. So what do you want us to do about the Krell? Could you accept their surrender? As a favor? President Park checked her calendar. I'm free Thursday afternoon. Will that work? Perfect. I'll arrange for a formal ceremony. Nothing too fancy. I have a PTA meeting at 7. 2 days later, President Park Yoon-ji accepted the surrender of the Krell Confederation in a brief ceremony held in Seoul City Hall. The Krell delegation was confused by the modest venue and the lack of military pageantry. This is your planetary command center? Asked the Krell ambassador, a giant insect with armor plating. It's City Hall. We use it for municipal government meetings. But where are your weapons? Your guards? Your displays of power? We don't need any of that. You're surrendering, right? So we're done. The ceremony lasted 15 minutes. President Park signed some papers, shook hands or claws with the Krell delegation, and offered them coffee and donuts. That's it? The Krell ambassador asked. That's it. Welcome to the galactic community. Try to be good neighbors. Meanwhile, Captain Lee Dong-woo had finally made it back to Earth in time for his daughter's graduation. The Seoul Express was now the unofficial diplomatic transport between Earth and the Valorian Empire, making regular runs with passengers, cargo, and mail. Dad, his daughter ran up to him after the ceremony. I thought you weren't going to make it. I promised I'd be here, he said, giving her a hug. How could I miss this? How was your trip? Mom said you accidentally discovered aliens. It was interesting, but not as important as this. Emperor Vexthul, who had come to Earth for the occasion, watched the graduation ceremony with fascination. He had never seen anything like it before. These young humans are celebrating the completion of their education? He asked Ambassador Yoon. Yes, Your Majesty. It's a big milestone for them and their families. And the families gather to witness this achievement? Of course. It's one of the most important days in a young person's life. The Emperor watched as families took photos, shared meals, and celebrated together. This is more important to them than galactic politics? Much more important. I begin to understand why your species is so unusual. After the ceremony, there was a barbecue party in Captain Lee's backyard. Emperor Vexthul found himself sitting at a picnic table, eating Korean fried chicken and trying to understand human family dynamics. So you work in space but still live with your parents? He asked Lee's daughter. I'm moving out next month. But this is home, you know? This is where I grew up. And your father risks interstellar travel to attend your graduation ceremony? Well, yeah. He's my dad. The Emperor's scales shifted to a thoughtful blue color. In the Valorian Empire, family bonds are broken when children reach maturity. Each individual serves the Empire directly. That sounds lonely. It ensures loyalty to the state. But who do you talk to when you have problems? Who celebrates when you do something good? The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. I have advisors. That's not the same thing. Later that evening, as the party was winding down, the Emperor approached President Park. I have a formal request, he said. What can I do for you? The Valorian Empire would like to apply for membership in Earth's sphere of influence. President Park nearly choked on her beer. We don't have a sphere of influence, could you create one? We would like to join it. Why? Because in 6 months, humans have solved more problems and made more improvements than we managed in 6 centuries. Your people treat cosmic challenges like everyday problems and somehow make everything work better. President Park looked around the backyard. Kids were playing in the grass. Adults were sharing food and stories. Captain Lee was showing off photos of his cargo ship to anyone who would listen. "We're just normal people," she said. "We don't have any special powers or secret knowledge. That's exactly why we want to join you. You treat complicated things simply. You prioritize family over empire. You fix problems instead of creating more problems.